Okay, let's move on to Team of the Year. Thus far, we've got a handful of teams that are still undefeated, 5-0 so far this season. Who do you see as the Team of the Year thus far in 2016?
Mine is Snyder through the first 5 weeks of the season, just because of what they lost last year, just how impressive they have been. Even that Homestead win against Homestead last week, it's still a 6A opponent, a very good 6A opponent that they dominated for 3 quarters before they let Homestead sneak back into it. Dominated Carroll, who is at this point of the season, you'd probably say is the second best team in the SAC after Carroll's win over Dwenger. Really manhandled them. And I think we expected them to take a step back a little bit, and I think they're every bit as good on that entire team. Maybe the offense is taking a step back, but the defense is significantly better, in my opinion, than last year. So through 5 weeks of the season, I got the Snyder Panthers as my Team of the Year.
I had Snyder as well. You're talking about they're averaging 39 points a game, but only giving up 11.4 against SAC level competition. And the most they've given up 21 points to a Concordia team that has played very well offensively so far this year. And when you look at Snyder, you're right, that defense doesn't quite, there isn't that, I guess Lawrence Johnson's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Dom Slaughter's pretty darn good. But it just seems like different guys make plays and they just get it done defensively without, big superstars like we've seen maybe in the past.
Yeah, guys like Zach McDowell up front, Austin France at the middle linebacker spot. They got veterans. You mentioned Dom Slaughter, but veterans galore in that secondary. So they just keep replacing talent with talent. And I think, they have a very good shot of getting back to the Lucas Oil Stadium. I think, maybe Friday was their wake-up call. Maybe, watching a little bit of the news too much, reading their press clippings. They need to refocus. I think this team is fully capable of getting back to the state championship and winning if they can stay grounded, keep pushing themselves, and really be ready for once the playoffs start.
I also had Snyder number 1. I had Woodland number 2. Yep. I think if you take a look at the stats, they're averaging almost 49 points a game, giving up just 9. And boy, I also go back to last year. Their only loss was in semi-state, and you return 18 starters off that team. I mean, they are lethal this season.
Yeah, and it's so tough with Woodland because they try their best to schedule good teams out of conference, but especially the ACAC this year, where there's so many lower-tier teams in that conference, they're just blowing a lot of teams out. Now, they'll get their challenge. Maybe South Adams can give them a game here in a couple weeks. Of course, Week 9 is against Adams Central, probably for the ACAC championship. But other than that, you're kind of looking at just how good this team is, and I really don't think we find that out to the playoffs. We could. You mentioned Whiting. Maybe their showdown with Whiting coming up. Eastbrook looks tough, but we could be making that trek up to Northwest Indiana again there in late November.
Other teams I was considering: Adams Central, obviously off to a good start at the latest AP poll. They're ranked number 5, undefeated so far this season with some good wins. They beat good teams like Eastside already. They got a big showdown with South Adams coming up, where maybe we'll learn a little bit more. But I also had New Haven.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Just like East Noble, they haven't played a game, so you take their numbers through 4 games as opposed to 5 with other teams. But, man, they've been good, and they haven't had that shoot themselves in the foot moment in the big games. They laid it on Leo, who's not a bad ball club at all.
Yeah, I think Leo's maybe take a step back this year just because of their youth, but still, New Haven went in there, really dominated that game. And you mentioned it, not shooting themselves in the foot, which we've seen the last couple years against good opponents. Obviously, the New Haven East Noble game, Week 8, is going to be for the NEA championship, and that'll be huge. New Haven's been very impressive thus far.